You're listening to the PR Wind Down Podcast, the show for public relations professionals who are ready to see real change in the PR industry. We are your hosts, April White and Laura Schooler. Let's get ready to wind down.
Do you have new glasses?
Oh yes, these are my new magnifiers. My old magnifiers are still there, but these are way stronger and I can actually see.
I like them. They're cute.
They're crazy.
Veronica and I were trying to figure out if it's a fashion statement or if you just like got new.
It's a little fat, but you ever see the Seinfeld episode where he's wearing like glasses and his eyes are like magnified like 10 times? Anyway, that's a little bit what I feel like, but
I see.
But no, they were in Target and they were like $17 and I was like, "Oh, I'm buying these."
I mean, they're great. I also have a new fashion statement. Do you want to see?
Yes. Well, your hair is, I've seen the new curly. Oh, your doggy. Oh my God. Oh my God. You basically had a baby.
Oh, now I woke up the baby. Here she comes.
Here my baby just came in.
I didn't want to wake her up, so I was like,
I mean, the mean baby.
I left her in the bag, even though I knew a dog bag on camera was going to be a weird look, but the baby's awake.
Oh. Baby.
All right. Now we can take off the baby bag.
Okay.
Uh-oh. There we go. Baby bag is off.
Okay, so.
Aren't you going to ask how I came about having a bunny rabbit that is a dog?
I mean, I feel like you get a new animal like every other month, but yes.
Oh, you're just over it.
Just like, oh, April has another animal.
So my friend, who is sort of like a second mom to me,
yes,
her best friend since childhood is in hospice now, about to pass of cancer. Oh. And this was her dog.
Oh, but if I died, the cat gets the apartment. So whoever buys the apartment comes with a cat. So they would have to be willing to take care of her.
Yeah, it's like part of the apartment now.
Yes. You want this apartment, you got to take care of the mean cat.
My friend is very happy because this way she still gets to see the dog on video chat, and whenever I talk to her, and I send her pictures and so she gets to feel like she's still part of the dog's life, even if she doesn't have to deal with this.
Oh my God.
She's 5 pounds. She's like a little jelly bean. So Laura, what's new with you besides the new glasses?
Nothing really.
Nothing really?
I'm just running for Congress. That's my way of explaining how I'm always looking for new business.
Running for Congress?
Well, because Congress people, their terms are only 2 years, so they're always running. So as a freelance consultant, I'm always running.
Oh,
so I'm always running for Congress.
I see. That required a lot.
That's my political.
That required a lot of information.
That's my political nerd humor.
Well, should we dive into our news of the day?
So, April, you know how we've talked about how local media is disappearing and how the trust in any media is all but disappearing, and that it is necessary for, the foundation of this country and for democracy to have a trusted media. Yep. Well, I was on LinkedIn the other day, and my brilliant friend's brilliant wife, her name is Janine Zacharia, wrote an article with another woman, Emily Handsel, called "The Polarization and the Press: 12 Ways to Restore Respect for Your Reporting." And they had done some information gathering with a discussion of 7 editors of publications across the United States. And they also got some written comments from some participants of the Stanford Rebelli Symposium. She is a professor of journalism at Stanford University, and she was like the bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal in Jerusalem at one time. She's super smart. So This is a great article because it lays it out very simply, and it's from information that she gathered from a variety of publications that ranged from the Tennessean to the Chattanooga Free Press to the Kansas City Star to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and more. So very varied parts of the country, right? Not like, oh, we talked to the New York Times, and this is what they said. So this is what they discussed about how to try to come out of the silos that you're in or that people think that you're in, right? Right now, the media is like, you're red or you're blue, you're right or you're left. And nobody believes that people are not just editorializing from their point of view. Nobody believes that there's no facts anymore, right? So she and a woman named Emily Handsel wrote this article, and I'm going to quickly say what their 12 takeaways were. So the first one was expand your mission from informer to convener, basically to promote good citizenship, right? The next one was get out into the community. It's sort of like what they say to, police, right? Like get to know the people on your beat, literally. Go on conservative talk radio. You can reach folks who are maybe not tuning into your own work. So if they're not reading you, you go to them where they are, right? Only court reachable readers and shut down toxic comment sections. I guess, comments on their articles or on social media. Encourage the written feedback, but not like crazy toxicity. And consider reinstating a public editor ombudsman, which used to be a thing, I think, more than I don't know that they exist really. Be more transparent about why and how you are covering something. Include backstory, investigation, all of that, so that people understand that you didn't just come up with this idea, out of your own head. Prioritize stories that relate to people's lives. Figure out what's important to people. Get out of the politics. Center around the human element. If an elected official is an internet troll, focus less on incendiary comments meant to draw attention and more on what the politician is doing or not doing in their job. Delve more deeply into what underlies the comments. That takes work for sure. When a politician lies or says something false, correct the record, and then provide your readers with information so that they can see how what was said is false. And you're not going to convince 100% of the people, but you might educate the people who really just don't know. In your editorial pages, give more space to local issues. It's interesting. My dad talks about how the local paper doesn't exist anymore. Don't require your reporters to post on Twitter/X. Encourage more meaningful community interactions.
I love that nobody could just call it X. It's always like social media platform formerly known as Twitter.
I know, we're ever just going to say X. Social media can be a cesspool of hate where attacks on journalists, especially women and people of color, can be rampant. Recognize your blind spots and address them. Be willing to showcase voices of people who see the world differently than you do. Avoid unnecessary adjectives and adverbs that can alienate. Get rid of the snark.
I think those last two are really key. Really, really key.
The blind spots and the unnecessary adjectives.
Yeah, I think it can be difficult as a reporter if you find somebody's opinion odious in your own worldview to include them and give them equal weight. But I think if you don't do that, that's how you end up needing to go on conservative talk radio because people aren't reading your stuff because you aren't giving them a voice.
Right.
And so I think that one's really key. And I've seen a lot of reporting lately that is too snarky and opinionated and colorful in language that is alienating. And I think that one is dead on because there's a lot of that kind of, it comes across like an op-ed because it's colored with this hue of disdain.
Like, look how smart I am kind of attitude. Yeah.
Or even just sort of,
or like, you're not part of this club.
Or the subject being covered as sort of it's being talked about in a condescending language. Yeah. And I think that also is alienating, which again, does end up leading people to find alternate news sources because they don't feel respected.
They don't, right. They're not being spoken to in a reasonable manner.
Right.
So they also list 3 interventions of note by some of the publications. The Dallas Morning News launched an editorial project in 2022 called The American Middle. In 2018, the Tennessean launched Civility Tennessee. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel is doing something as part of the Main Street Agenda, a project that they do. So anyway, it was a very to the point article about actionable things that the media can do to try to, bring people back to reading their paper, trusting the media, becoming a more educated populace, all these kinds of things. So I thought it was very interesting.
It's really interesting, and it's important. It's really important.
I don't know how much of this particular story is impacted by or impacts PR people. PR people, I mean, as we know, every story's got some PR thumbprint somewhere, but this is a little bit more on high. And so I don't think that
it's a little more academic than practical for us. But it's still, I think, important for us to think about as publicists, because the credibility of the media is underlying credibility of PR and everything we do. So it's important to just, have your finger on the pulse of what's out there and what's being talked about, I think.
Right. It's like the iron framework of the building, right? So that the building doesn't collapse and you can build the building.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a very interesting analysis, I guess. I mean, even though the article doesn't address it, I think in terms of how PR people can support the credibility of the media from their side, a lot of it goes back to making sure that you're feeding the journalist super accurate information that isn't, as much as possible, coming from these kinds of slants unnecessarily. I mean, if you're a political reporter and you're getting fed political things, that's a whole different ballgame, right? But for most publicists, we're not pitching political things. But
if we were in Washington or, whatever, worked for the Fed, but yes.
And then this piece about, not just taking the quotes, but what are the things that somebody's doing, whether it's a company or elected official or a celebrity or whatever, like, what are the things that they're doing, their actions that are worthy of coverage and not just the pull quotes.
And what else? I think maybe when you're talking about, how are we going to pitch this client or this executive or expert, etc., give some thought to some of these things that Janine and Emily list here. Try to integrate some of this into vibe, the pitches, the emails that you're sending, the conversations you're having, the talking points maybe that you're giving to your clients, some of the messaging that they might like. Take out the snark, take out the words that don't apply to everybody, and
make sure that they're not just saying incendiary things for the sake of it. I mean, I remember, Laura, we had that one client that wanted to come out guns blazing and talk about political issues that really had nothing to do with the business he was in. And it was not really.
Did he run for office since then or something? It was very
I haven't checked. But I would say definitely steer them away from that, because they're not going to look credible. I mean, if a brand is not doing something that is supporting a stance on a topic, don't pitch it. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's so many executives that, well, not a lot, but there are a handful of executives that do just kind of like to hear themselves talk. And they are more than happy to, just be outrageous and say anything that goes against the grain on either side of the aisle. And if they're doing that for the sake of it, but it doesn't actually serve the company and it isn't really related to what the company is supporting or doing with their actions, then I would definitely try to avoid that at all costs. So I think that's incredibly important.
So this is the Stanford journalism program. We'll probably link the article to the bottom of our podcast. It's definitely worth reading.
Agreed.
So we got a new horror story, April.
All right. I'll read it with joy.
Okay.
The dog.
Oh, is that the dog's name?
I just realized it sounded like, I'll read it with joy. Like, who says
Hello,
that?
April and Laura. Oh.
Okay, here we go. Do not open until podcast. Hello, April and Laura. I am reeling from a meeting I just had with my manager. I've been working for a bigger than mid-sized PR agency as a remote freelancer for about 2 years. My career plan included a transition and promotion to a full-time manager position this year, and I had been working closely with my senior manager to track my goals in that direction. It was going great, and I'd been knocking my projects and accounts out of the park. Well, fast forward to a few months ago. My amazing senior manager and mentor left for a better gig, and I got a new direct manager. He's made little effort to step fully into my role and has been pushing extra work onto me. If he misses a deadline or an email, he shifts the blame to me. If he can't find a document, he hands me the whole task. When I try to share institutional knowledge or insights, he copies and pastes my recommendations into a new email with his name on it, sends it to our senior leadership, and takes the credit. I've been working double duty to pick up his slack and stay on top of my goals because I do like working for this company besides the weird transition. And I figured I could outlast him anyway because he seems pretty incompetent, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, last week, he asked me to stay on the Google Meet with him after a routine meeting. And as soon as everyone else got off the link, he told me, quote, my manager promotion was posted on LinkedIn that morning. Number 2, the whole agency is heavily pushing return to office and requiring all staff to report in person in Columbus 3 days a week or be let go. Number 3, I could apply for the manager role as an external applicant, but I would have to live in Columbus. Now, I've been here for years. My entire agency knows I just bought my first home in New Jersey. I just had my first kid too, and I'm not in a position to uproot my life. So I feel blindsided. Like, this manager waited to tell me until it was too late. And now I've been tasked with an even greater workload to complete certain projects and deadlines before my last day, which is October 1st, so far in the future. I don't know what to do. Do I stay here putting in all this extra work and hoping they can't find an in-person applicant in Columbus by Q4? Do I try to go over his head to someone more senior since I feel like it's likely he didn't advocate for me as a candidate when this decision was made? Or do I just let it go and move on? I don't want to burn bridges, but I feel pretty burnt myself. Signed, fired. That's rough.
I don't understand where it says my manager promotion was posted on LinkedIn that morning.
I think it's that it was that the job opening was posted, meaning the job that this person wanted.
Thought that,
and then
you have to be in Columbus, Ohio.
And they're hiring for the role. And it's like, this person thought they were just going to get
promoted. And this role is in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes. So I think it's a double whammy. Oh, the job that I thought I was going to get, meaning this person, is posted now publicly. Cool. Also, it's in Columbus and you have to move.
Right. Like, I'm here ready and willing to do it. Why are we publicly posting it? And why does it have to be in person in Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah.
Although I have read recently that Ohio's got one of the biggest, I don't know, economies of any state in the United States, interestingly, but that's separate.
Yeah, but if you just bought a house.
Well, like, totally. I mean, like, usually people don't want to move to Ohio. Right. Like, I'm going to move to Ohio, my dream.
Oh, no.
I know. No.
Mess.
So this person could apply to the role as an external applicant, but would have to live in Columbus. I do think that this person should go to somebody more senior than the new incompetent overseer. Go to, the internal recruiter, go to the, I don't know, EVP, go to both of them, go to more than one person and say, hey, I don't know if you're aware, but I'm really interested in this role. I've been like working my butt off to try to get the job. And I see, that it's not only posted, but that I was told that you have to be based in Columbus. I would just love to have this job, and I would be more than happy to come to Columbus, every other month for a week, so to get FaceTime with everybody if I had to, that's no problem. But I just bought a house and had a baby, so I can't literally move full time to
right
Ohio.
Now.
Right.
Yeah. Not to rule it out in the future, but
right.
We'd lose money if we sell our house now, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Right. And my baby's 9 weeks old. I just can't, move. So totally recommend giving it a shot if you're really into the job. And then maybe at that point, you also have to say something about your new overseer not being your biggest advocate, and how that hasn't been, how would you put it? It hasn't been as, productive a relationship as you were having with the prior person who had left. And you're concerned that you may have been depositioned by that person in regards to not advocating for you to be considered for this job.
I think that's perfect. I mean, it's worth a shot, because otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of your only shot. And if it doesn't work, then
I say you miss every shot you don't take, right?
So try that, but keep this job as long as you possibly can, because the economy is still kind of weird right now, and you just had a baby, you want health insurance and a paycheck. So keep it as long as you can, but definitely say that to.
And they might be willing to work with them and like get them an apartment in Columbus, and then they can, but they have a baby.
Well, I know, there's
stay there for a few days at a time or whatever, like.
Totally. The agency I was just freelancing at has a guy who's been there for a long time, and he just moved back to the Midwest, and he comes in every month for Monday through Thursday, once a month, and stays in an apartment that the company has, and then goes back home again.
Yeah.
And otherwise he's remote, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that.
This is where April's sick brainish. I'm like, yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
No, I think that's pretty good.
What's wrong with me? I think it's good. Thank you for tuning in for the PR Wind Down podcast. Remember, you can submit your own agency stories and questions and share our show with your friends and colleagues. And if you subscribe and leave us a rating, it will help us reach new listeners like you.
Can't wait to wind down with you again next time.
Woo! Do you want to stay in the bag, or do you want to get down? Okay. Stay in the bag, she says. Do you want down yet? Are you done? Okay. Okay, bye. Go do something else. No? She's like, wait, why did you put me down? Okay, standing on the desk is not an option. We have to go down. See you later. Bye.
Bye, puppy skins.